Hey guys, this is really weird. I literally started this YouTube channel just to help friends of mine answer some questions about how I do my eBay business. When I first started selling on eBay, I was super excited about the possibility of making as much money as I was making. It was incredible to me. It was crazy to think that people actually paid this much money for used clothing and used shoes. I was posting on social media my excitement, and I had friends of mine from high school contacting me, asking me, hey, how do you do this? All the way up till my Bible college days, all the way to even just where I am in my life now. Just people always asking me, hey, how do you do this? How do you know what to look for? If I've been asked that question once, I've been asked it a million times. How do you know what to look for? Well, if we all knew the answer to that question, we would all be raking in the dough. But the answer to that question, it really varies. It's based on what your niche is. The reason I say what your niche is because it's all based on what you know. It's all based on what you understand about selling. I used to work in retail, so I sold ladies' shoes, so I know the upper brands of the higher end brands of ladies' shoes. I know the higher brands of men's clothing, and so that's kind of what got me started in this. I think I've told a story on here before about how my wife and I just went to the thrift store one day. I bought a sweater that I liked. It didn't fit me the way that I wanted after I got home, so of course you can't take something back to the thrift store, so what I do, I listed on eBay as an auction for $9.99. I paid like $4 for it, and I got a bid for $9.99. I said, wow, I just doubled my profits. And plus they're paying like $6 for shipping. I could get it there plenty within that price. And then it just kept going up higher and higher and higher and higher, and before I knew it, I had tripled or quadrupled my total that I had put into that sweater. So I got excited. I went back to the thrift store and I loaded up a cart filled with golf polos, and that was kind of a fail. Those things set for like a year and a half, most of them. Sold a couple of them, but not for what I thought I would get out of them. So I realized, yes, this is a possibility, but you got to be real careful about what you purchase. So today in my video, I'm going to explain to you what my process is in going through a thrift store. So what happens from the moment I walk in the door? Where do I go? What goes through my mind? What is my process? Well, the answer to that question also is that varies. It depends on the thrift store I'm at. Sometimes I've walked into the thrift store. Actually, this past week in Tulsa, I walked into the thrift store and I turned right back around and went out. It smelled like cat urine, really bad. And number one, my wife wasn't going to stick around for that. And number two, I didn't really like to smell cat pee either. So we just turned around and left. I don't care what's in here. It's not worth it because all the merchandise in here is going to smell just like its environment, which is disgusting. And you don't want that. It's going to vary depending on what thrift store you go into and how it's set up. How I do it, here's my kind of hierarchy of how I approach the merchandise in a thrift store. First and foremost, I always run straight to the men's and women's shoes. Sometimes those are split up into different parts of the store. Sometimes it's not, but I'll usually go to the men's shoes first. I'll look through those. I'll look for the Aldens. I'll look for the Mephistos. I'll look for the Meslins, the Florsheim, V-Cleat 5 nails, just your basic, high quality, highly sought after men's shoes. If I see a brand that I don't really recognize, and at this point, when you're thrifting for 3 or 4 years, you can usually recognize what's a well-made shoe, what is a good quality name brand. But if you don't know what it is, it's a brand you've never heard of before, pull out your phone, go to the eBay app, type in the name brand of the shoe, type in the style. Is it a cap toe? Is it a wingtip? You need to understand what those things are, and you need to search what those things have sold for. You need to refine your search to sold items within the past 90 days and see what they're selling for. See if it's worth your time, see if it's worth your money. Sometimes I'll pass over a pair of shoes that I would typically buy because they're asking just way too much for the shoes. Especially Goodwill. Goodwill, if you're watching, you need to stop that. Stop pricing your shoes $50 for a pair of K-Swiss, knockoff, whatever. It's stupid. And I get it. They're trying to be a help to everyone. They're trying to provide for people who are not as well off. I get that. But what you're charging for the shoes, people are not paying these. I've seen shoes like that sit in, I'm going on a tangent on shoes here. I didn't expect to do this in this video. Follow the outline, right? But I've seen pairs of shoes like that sit on a shelf for 5, 6 months even. They just don't move. It can be frustrating, but it's worth going still and going through the things that are marked low enough for you to be able to get a profit. And plus, paying for these things, I don't mind at all paying Goodwill for a little bit extra for these things because I know that money's going towards a good cause. Anyway, moving on. Shoes. Big deal for me. I make a lot of money at shoes. Plus, that's the first place I go because it seems to me that the shelf life is, the turnaround's pretty quick with those. If people are going to a thrift store, they're usually looking through the shoes pretty quickly. Then the next place I go, it's a preference of mine. Like I said, all this is preferential, but this is my routine. I go to men's suits and blazers. And I look for the Xenia, I look for the Canali, I look for the Hartschaffner Marks, and I look for those higher brands. I mean, hey, if something fits me, I'll keep it. I have filled up my closet with men's suits and blazers just from hunting through thrift stores. And you'll find that you'll do that too. You'll fill up your closet with things that really you usually wouldn't be able to afford. So I go from there to coats and jackets. That's a seasonal thing usually, but I'll load up on those throughout the summer, and then I'll list them, but I'll list them for a premium during the winter. Then men's shirts, long sleeve shirts, your Robert Grahams, your Eton of Sweden, your Hugo Boss, anything that's a dress shirt, Ike Behar, any of these dress shirts that sell for a higher premium. Even the casual shirts for like Polo Ralph Lauren, they're custom fits. Their button-down shirts do pretty well if the price is right. Then from there to sweaters. I like sweaters. I like going through sweaters, especially the wool or the cashmere blend. I'll even buy some Banana Republic, even though the market is loaded with Banana Republic or Express. If it has some cashmere in it or Angora in it, I'll buy it. And then the next thing I go to, and by this point in my list, I don't really go in any specific order at this point, but I'll look at hats. I'll look for the newsboy hats, all the cabbie hats, the wool hats, the fedoras. I'll even look for the caps, the trucker hats with the mesh backing to them. Anything with a good premium logo on it, anything from Pillsbury all the way to Ruger, these all sell. The starter hats, the old starter hats from the 90s, the 80s, these all do really well. The snapbacks. Then I go to t-shirts. I'll look through t-shirts. The main thing I'm looking for in t-shirts are sports logos and vintage Nike, Reebok, Adidas. Any of the gray tag Nike, the blue tag Nike especially. If you have blue tag Nike, you can make triple digits. Hundreds of dollars these things sell for. Golf clubs, try to find putters. Usually putters do really, really well. Like I said, that's one of my niches. I like golfing. I know some of the old brands to look for and what's sought after, what's collectible. Electronics, I go through those. I don't spend a whole lot of time there. I'll look for the big TVs with the VHS built into it. Those sell really well. They're a beast to ship, but it's worth it. The VHS DVD combos, those sell well. Anything remote controls, those always do well. Just search the serial number on the back, usually inside the battery port. Search for the serial number and you'll get an idea of what those sell for. Then I go to the glass case. I always at least look in the glass case. You can find anything there from Cabbage Patch Dolls to fake Burberry and fake Burberry and fake Burberry, and have I mentioned fake Burberry? Fake Hermes, fake Armani, fake Gucci, all of it's fake, mostly. 90% of the things in that glass case are fake. And these employees don't really know what they have a lot of the times. So sometimes I've seen it. I've found a couple things that are legitimate in that glass case. And you gotta sift through a lot of junk to get to it, but it's worth it. And you annoy the junk out of the people who work behind that desk. It's hilarious. It's like that's their job, is to open up that desk back there. They put it in that case. And then when you ask to see what's in the case, you get so many of this. It's awesome. Anyway, the glass case, it's worth looking through because you might find something. I'll find some silver, some real sterling. And the last place I look, I always make sure I look here, and it's not as successful as it used to be for me because everyone's going on this, jumping on this bandwagon of books. Everyone's scanning books. Well, it's worth it to me because I still make bank on books. I'll go through 20, 30 books and find one that sells for $50 and it was worth my time. How much time do I spend in a thrift store? It used to be an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, easy when I first started. Now that I understand what brands do well, now that I understand what there is out there, I'll find what I'm looking for in 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. I just don't have the time that I used to be able to go in and do all this hunting. It takes way more time to photograph and to list the items. So if I can spend less time looking for these things and more time focusing on listing them, then my time is well spent. But I hope this has been a help to you. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments underneath, and I'll try to answer those. I try to get back to you within 24 hours. If I don't, it's because my life is just crazy. And I'm a youth pastor, I kind of have a screw loose up here. I'm dealing with teenagers all day. I love doing what I do. This is my part-time job. This is just kind of a hobby that became a job. Still feels like a hobby. It's kind of cool making money doing what you enjoy doing. We're getting ready to move next week, so I may be off the grid for a couple days. Moving into our new home. Just got the call from the realtor, the text from the realtor saying that closing date is coming up, so it's confirmed. I just want to say to y'all, don't get discouraged by the slow times. Of course, this is Q4, so how can anybody get discouraged during Q4? You're going to make great money during this time, but just remember that it's worth giving everything you got to it, putting your time into it, putting your effort into it, because you get out of it what you put into it. It's a biblical principle. Obviously, it has its own context in Scripture. You reap what you sow, but it even goes for your job as well. So I want to encourage you, keep thrifting. Happy thrifting to you, and I hope God blesses you and your thrifting business.